What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and in today's episode of the Fighting Game Tutorial Series, we're going to be going over Unlockable Items Part 2, and in this episode specifically, we're going to be going over buying items from the store. So let's do a demo. Let's go into our store, and I can go over to my characters. You can see everything is considered locked right now, so I can go over and move between them, but they're all considered locked. I can pick the item that I want to unlock, let's say the character mannequin. And at this point, I can press the confirm button to make this pop up. Are you sure you want to purchase the character mannequin for 20 tokens? And I can move over to the yes button and I can hit confirm again, and that character is going to be unlocked. So now they don't have the lock on them anymore. We are good to go. We own the mannequin. For this episode, it's not going to actually take my currency, and it's also not going to actually unlock anything in the game. It is going to set the appropriate value in the unlockables array to say that it is unlocked, but we have to set up behavior throughout the rest of our game to actually support locked items that need to be unlocked before they can be used. So we're not quite there yet, but this is a huge step into actually buying things from the store and unlocking items in our game as well. Additionally, this saves, so if I am to come out to the store and go back in, then it will still be unlocked. If I were to save my game by playing a match and load it in, it would also show this as unlocked. We can test that later. Before we hop into this episode, if you are interested in checking out the rest of Fighting Game Tutorial Series, we are very far along, but we still have a ton of episodes to make, a ton of content to cover. You can click this icon in the top right corner right here to go to the Fighting Game playlist and check out every episode of the Fighting Game template. If you don't care about that, but you do care about unlocking items, I'll link you to the previous episode of Unlockables right here in the top right corner, so you can check out everything we did to set that up and how you can watch today's episode flawlessly. But with all that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. Now, this is a code and blueprint tutorial series, but we're going to be doing everything in the blueprints today. We don't have to touch the code because it's all going to be within the store widgets. I'm going to go to my blueprints, widgets, menus, and I'm going to open up my store widget, which is my overall store that I have. Then I am going to go to my store item icon, which are the individual store items within my store. And finally, I'm going to go to my store item pop-up, which is my confirmation pop-up when we are purchasing an item from the store. The first one I want to go to is the individual store item, the one I call store item icon. And so in store item icon, I have added a new image that I call locked image, and I put this over top of my icon. I did this because now every single item on the store widget can have this lock icon if it hasn't been purchased or hasn't been unlocked. So quite literally, I grabbed an image and brought it into the canvas panel, right over top my button, and I'll show you my settings, but really just make sure you have some sort of image over top of your item's border that you're going to replace with your in-game item image. And so I've called this locked image and I've set it to be a variable. We are going to need that. Here are my positions, no anchors. I'm using a custom lock image that I made, set to visible by default, and that's everything for my locked image. Now that's really all we have to do for putting it on top of the image, but we do want to set its visibility to be false or hidden if the item is unlocked. And so in our graph on this widget, the store item icon, we have this set item details, and I'm going to modify this a bit today. I'm going to add two things to it. So let's go ahead and do that now. So here's my set item details function in my store item icon, and I scroll down to my input parameters and I add two new parameters. I've added an integer called item unlockable index, and I actually put a space there, but I'm gonna get rid of that. So item unlockable index, like this. And I also have a boolean called is unlocked, and essentially we're going to determine if this item is unlocked or not. But additionally, we're going to relate this item back to the unlockables array at the specific instance that this item is in that array. So whatever item the store item icon represents, it's going to store that index from the unlockables array. Now the name, description, and cost are already in here, but we should have this new item unlockable index in this function. And I want to set a variable on this widget called unlockable index, and it's going to be from that new variable that we created, item unlockable index. So I've made a new variable in this widget as well, and again that is called unlockable index, and that is an integer. The default value of 0 is fine to start. Basically 0 index is the first one that we're checking, but the set item details will return a value into this variable each time, and we'll actually check the correct index from the unlockables array. Once you have this variable, you can drag it in and set it, and then just pass the value in from item unlockable index to the set. Now the other parameter that we added here, the isUnlocked, is also going to be used, and it is going to be used to determine if the locked image is visible or hidden. So we have isUnlocked, and you can see it's being brought into a branch. And if it is true that it is unlocked, we want to hide the lock image, because it's true, it has been unlocked. So if it's been unlocked, then there's no reason to have a lock here. So the lock image should be hidden. So if it's true, we get our locked image, get, and we drag off of it, set visibility, and we're going to set the visibility to be hidden. And that's what we got right here. If it's false, however, we're going to do the same thing and set the visibility to be visible, because at this time, the item is not unlocked, meaning it is locked, and thus the locked image should be visible. So that is everything we need to do for the store item icon to make sure that we have that little lock icon there, and we know if an item is locked or not from the player's perspective just by looking at the UI. The next thing we want to go to is the store widget. And let's go to the graph. And it's really ugly right now, but this is my event construct. So we were coming through listening to all of our inputs, moving the selection to the right value. Then we were getting the values from the data table one by one, breaking them apart and grabbing the information from them. The data tables will always have isUnlocked as false. Remember, the array is what changes the isUnlocked parameter. And because of this, we don't want to use our data table anymore. We want to use our array. So I have these 4 nodes that I have highlighted right here, and I'm going to replace them with the array behavior. So get data table row names for each loop, get data table row from that loop, and then break is going to be converted. So we're going to pull this out. We're going to get rid of it. Instead, we're going to put this in here. And like I said, it's ugly right now, but we're going to clean it up. It looks a lot better already. So the first thing I need to do is get my base game instance, because if I can get that, I can get my unlockables array, which has all the data I need, including the isUnlocked boolean. So I use get game instance, and I cast it to my base game instance. And if this succeeds, I will be able to use my unlockables array, unlockables, and loop through them to get every single item in my unlockables array. So you see I have it here, and then I can drag off unlockables and get my for each loop. Now I have the individual item of the unlockable in this array for each index. So I can drag off the array element and break it to get the unlockable item with each parameter. At this point, I want to take each parameter from break unlockable item and pass it into where the data table is going. So we have this set item details on the store item icon widget, and we were calling that right here. We want to pass in the data from this break unlockable item, not the one from the data table. So name still goes into the item name, description into the item description, image into the item image. Type is being checked for character. It does not need to go into the set item details, but we still want to use the type here from the array, not from the data table. Currency cost is going to go into the item cost, and isUnlocked is going to go into set item details right here. And now isUnlocked is properly being set from the array instead of the data table. This means if the item is unlocked, we actually will be able to see it, unlike with the data table where it would always say isUnlocked is false. The rest of this behavior is exactly the same, and you don't have to change anything with it. One more thing, once this loop is completed, we do have to do the same logic we were doing before with the data table, so don't forget. On completed of the for each loop, we need to call determine number of items in each category, set the current horizontal box to 0, and call move selection. Now, while we are in the store widget, we want to make a variable, and I'm calling it current category, because we have this change category function, and we pass it an index when we are in confirm selection. So you can see we call it change category, and we put in the hard-coded index, and that's fine. But the problem is when we do that, then we can't tell what category we are on from another widget without doing some other behavior. So the easiest way to handle this is to just make a variable called current category. It is an integer that defaults at 0. And then we can go into the change category function. And the very first thing I do is set current category based off the category index that's passed into the function already. This will allow us to know what category we are in things like the store item pop-up. We can use it to refresh the items that we're already on, so we can grab a new value, and if we purchase an item, like we did in the demo, the lock can go away right away. There's more to do in here, but let's take a step back and go to the store item pop-up. So when we get into this widget here, this is our confirmation for what item we're buying. Everything on the design view is exactly the same, but let's go to the graph. The event graph is exactly the same, but confirm selection, we only had the behavior for no if we were saying no, we don't want to buy this item. We never filled out anything for if we wanted to buy the item. So confirm selection at index 0 is what we need to fill out today. This is all new behavior. So now if we're saying yes, we want to buy the item, we need to get our game instance and cast to the base game instance. That way we can get our unlockables array just like we did in the store widget. And we need to get the index that we're trying to buy. We had an item name and an item cost, and so when we were getting the text to write out to the player, it incorporated these values. However, we never really knew the actual item from the unlockables array that we were referencing. So to fix that, we can add a new variable, item unlockable index, just like in the store item icon. So I made a new integer, yet again, item unlockable index, and this one defaults to 0 as well, but it has instance editable and expose on spawn checked. This is because we spawn this widget from the store widget when we're pressing the confirm button, and so we want to pass the proper data into it right away. If we go into the store widget and go to the confirm selection, we have to go to where we were creating the store item pop-up, which is right here. Basically, we were coming in, determining that we were on a item, and if we were on an item, we were determining what item that was, and then we were passing along all the data from the store item icon. Remember that the store item icon now has an unlockable index that was set in set item details. And that was in our event graph of the store widget. See, unlockable index, see how it's 0 right here by default? That should really come from the array index on the for each loop. So if we drag off of this and drag into the item unlockable index, we'll be good to go. Then we can make a nice little reroute node to clean it up a little bit. And something like that works, you're good to go. So now in confirm selection, when we were dragging off of the store item reference, we were using the cost and the name. But we were creating the store item pop-up, and it had the item cost and the name automatically being exposed on spawn so that we could pass data into it right away. Now we should have this item unlockable index. If you don't see it, you can right-click on the node and refresh the node. Should make it pop up. Then you can drag off your store item reference and get unlockable index, and then pass that into the item unlockable index. Now, the widget of the individual item has the index that it is, and the store item pop-up has the index that we're trying to buy. Both of these are necessary. Let's go back into store item pop-up, and using our unlockables array, we can get a ref. We need a reference because we're going to change values on this variable that we get. Get a ref, and we can pass in item unlockable index in here. So now we want to know the index of the unlockables array that we're buying, and we can set is unlocked to be true. And the way you do this is drag off of the reference, set members in unlockable item. Now you can set any members that you want on the structure reference, but only check pins for things you want to change, otherwise it will actually set them. So for example, if I check name and I don't put anything in here, it's going to reset it to be empty, which we don't want. We just want to check is unlocked, and then we want to check it so that it's true. And that's what we have right here. Then I was calling remove from parent to get rid of the pop-up. just like we were doing if we said no to the pop-up. And then also like we were doing if we said no to the pop-up, I want to start listening to actions on the creator widget, which is the store widget. Basically, when we open up this pop-up, it takes over all control from the player. The player can't be moving around the store widget in the background when the pop-up is open. So when we close the pop-up, we need to give control back to the store widget. I have a creator widget reference that's able to do that. And we want to drag off it, call start listening to actions to get that to work. And once we do this, we will want to refresh the items in the store so that if there were locks on items and they shouldn't be locked anymore, we can remove the lock. There's plenty of ways to do this. A very simple way is just to call change category with the current category index that we're on. So we should make this refresh items function. And to do that, we can go to the store widget and make a new function. And I called it refresh items. Go into it. It's very simple. In refresh items, I'm going to call the change category function on the store widget, and I'm going to pass along the current category that we just set up earlier in this episode. This will just do the behavior of change category for the category we're already on. Literally is refreshing the items by grabbing the data from the array again. So after you've made this function and filled it out, go back into your store item pop-up, drag off your creator widget reference, and make sure you call refresh items. Now, once you do that, you are good to go for constructing the widget and having the data be correct for the characters. However, change categories is not going to work because it's still based off the data table behavior. So if we go into change category and look around a little bit, there's a lot of repeating logic in here, just using different types, character, stage, outfit, or game settings. In here, we want to change the data tables to be the array, yet again, just like we did in event construct. So we're going to do what we did in event construct again. So I'm just going to take out my get data table row names, my for each loop, my individual get data table row, and my break, and I'm going to use my array to do this instead. And the way this works is switch on int 0 should go into this one because this is my character array that I'm handling here. I want to get my game instance and cast it to my base game instance. That way I can grab my unlockables array. From there, I want to drag it into a for each loop and break off the array element to grab all the data that I will need. Then I need to pass the data along for name, description, image, type, currency cost, and is unlocked into set item details. Additionally, I should pass in my array index into item unlockable index. Also, make sure that on for each loop completed, you go into the behavior that all these paths go into, resetting the current horizontal box and moving the selection. And the loop body just goes into the branch off the type, just like it did before. So now we can do this for all of these data table row instances if we want. So I can just copy this and delete everything in here and replace it essentially. So index 1 will go into this one, loop body will go into this branch. We'll organize this a little bit. Now the name, description, image, type, to stage, currency cost, and is unlocked are all going to be brought over. Then we also have this item unlockable index that we can't forget. And let's clean it up a little bit. And there we go. The completed should go into this reroute node right here. That way it can go to the behavior at the end. I'm going to do the same thing for the outfits and the game settings really quickly, so you can just take a look at what I'm doing on the screen and follow that. There is one minor bug you might encounter with this, and that is when you buy an item, if you were on the second row or farther down, it will put you back up at the top row. There is an easy solution to this, however, we are going to be changing this behavior a little bit to clean up in the next episode, and I'm just going to include it in that, so don't worry if you run into that small issue, it will be fixed. Once all that is done, we can go ahead and test this, and we can go to the store and actually purchase an item or two, like the mannequin and the mutant, and we can actually return to the game, play it. I will save out the data, and we'll make sure that it is being loaded in correctly. So my fight is coming to an end here, and you can see that it is saving right now. At this point, I can return to the main menu, and I should see everything that I unlocked already on the menu, but that's perfectly normal. The game instance is expecting that. However, if we quit the game, and I'll do it live here, and load it back in, the mannequin and the mutant should be considered unlocked, and they are. So our saving and loading is working as well. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video on Unlockable Items Part 2 and actually purchasing items from the store. If you did, please subscribe. It does more for the channel and my community than anything else you can do, and I just really appreciate it. Huge shout out to the people who support me on Patreon, YouTube membership, and Discord subscriptions. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing, of course, and I appreciate you so much. Feel free to check out the benefits of that by clicking the icon in the top right corner right here. If you had any issues following this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. There is a link in the description, and I would be happy to help you. Anyway, guys, that's all I got, so thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.